Hello everyone, welcome to this video on strong and weak arguments, which is a part of critical reasoning. This is our second video on critical reasoning. The first one was on statement and assumptions. So as a continuation of that, we are going to the topic strong and weak arguments. Now, this is again one of the most confusing yet an important topic in critical reasoning. Now, how does a question on strong and weak arguments look like? See, basically it will contain a statement, right? Which will be in the form of a question. So there is a question followed by two arguments or answers to this question, and you have to decide which of these arguments is strong and which of these is weak. See, sometimes both the arguments may be strong, sometimes both the arguments may be weak, and sometimes one of them may be strong and the other may be weak. Now, what is an argument and how would you decide which of these arguments is strong and which one is not? See, the technical definition of an argument is like a reason or set of reasons given in support of an idea, action or theory, blah blah blah. But this is not useful from our exam perspective. Let's stick to the exam and talk from an exam perspective. So, see, in our questions, there will be a question followed by two arguments, that is answer to these questions, and we would call an answer or an argument as a strong argument if it satisfies these points. Point number one, this answer is a direct answer to the question. See, whenever there is a question, sometimes the answer would be a direct answer, sometimes the answer may not be a direct one, it may be an indirect one, or it may deal with the trivial issues of the question. So, a strong argument has to be a very direct answer. Second point, a strong argument is supported by some reasoning. There has to be some reasoning part in the answer. It should not be without reasoning. And the third one, this reasoning has to be logical, right? There has to be some logic behind the reasoning. It should not be some random reasoning. So if an answer has all these points in it, we would call it a strong argument and a weak argument otherwise. And now let's take some questions to understand the concept better. So the first question goes like, should India conduct Football World Cup? There are two arguments. Argument number one, yes, India should conduct Football World Cup. Why not? I would call this argument as a weak argument because here there is no reason given for this argument. See, we have already discussed that an argument would be a strong argument if it has got some reason and that reason is logical. Here he is not giving any reason, so I would call this argument as a weak argument. Let's go to the second argument. He says, no, India should not conduct Football World Cup because the Indian football team is not a strong team. Again, I would call this argument as a weak argument because here he has given some reason that the Indian football team is not a strong team. That's why we should not conduct the World Cup. But this reason is not logical. See, just think, what do you need to conduct a Football World Cup? You need good infrastructure, that is stadiums. You need the right fan following and you need good security for the players, right? So if you have all these things, then definitely you can conduct a Football World Cup. It doesn't depend on whether the host team is a good team or not to conduct a Football World Cup. So I would call this argument as a weak argument. Let's take another question. Should TV anchors be made teachers? The first argument says yes, because they have a lot of popularity. This is a weak argument because does popularity have anything to do with good teaching? No, not at all, right? So popularity and teaching doesn't go good with each other. So I would call the first argument as a weak argument. Second one, no, because most of them do not have subject knowledge. I would call this argument as a strong argument because just look at the logic used here. It says that someone doesn't have subject knowledge, so don't make him a teacher. That goes good and I would call it a strong argument. Okay, let's take another question. Should doctors be given license to practice medicine only after they serve at least 3 years in remote villages? That is, should doctors be given, the doctor license only after working compulsorily for 3 years in small villages? Let's go to the arguments. One, yes, because doctors are not willing to serve in remote villages. I would call this a strong argument because look at the reasoning here. He says that someone is not willing to work in remote villages and hence this person should be made to work compulsorily for at least some years in the villages, after which he can move out. So the logic given here goes good with the question and I would call it a strong argument. Okay, now some of you may argue like, this is not applicable to 100% of the doctors. Some of you may think like that. Like there may be some doctors who are willing to work in remote villages. Okay, see, to get these strong and weak argument questions correct, always remember the logic given here may not be applicable to 100% of the people, but if it is applicable to most of the people or majority of the people, then you should take it as a strong argument. So you and me, both of us know that most of the doctors, they would not like to work in remote villages, and hence this argument is a strong argument. Okay, let's go to the next argument. It says that no, don't impose any such strict rule because the villages depend on herbal medicines. Now this is a weak argument, clearly a weak argument, because herbal medicines and doctor's license not related much with each other. So I would take this as a weak argument. And the next question says that should parents be taught child psychology? Argument 1. Yes, because a child gets its first lessons from the parents. I think this is a strong argument because see, obviously a child gets its first lessons from the parents, and if the parents can know the psychology of the child, then definitely they can teach him better, right? So this argument is a strong argument. The second one, yes, because learning child psychology can result in better nurturing of the child. Again, it's a strong argument because the logic given goes good with the question. If the parents know the psychology of the child, it can result in a better nurturing of the child. So again, the second one is also a strong argument. Let's go to the next question. It says, students study late in the night these days. Is it good for them? Argument 1. Yes, in the daytime, their schedules are really packed with tuitions. I would call this a strong argument because the logic used here is really good. He says that daytime they're not getting any free time due to tuitions and all. So it's good for them that they study in night when they find the free time, right? So that logic is quite good. So I would call this a strong argument. Second one, no, because it affects their health. Again, this is a very, very strong argument because if you study daily in the night, obviously it will affect your health. So this argument is also a strong argument. So this question was a classic case of, two arguments which are opposite to each other, but both of them are strong. So in some cases, this also happens. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. But this time we've got something wonderful for you. That is, if you go to the description link below, there is a link to our website on which if you click and register, you will get a free test on this topic. Okay, so like in the coming videos also, we'll be going in this pattern. There will be a video followed by a test. You practice the questions and come back to us for any doubts that you have. You can put all your doubts and queries in the comment section below. And last but not the least, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and please hit the bell icon. Thank you.